Good evening. Tonight's story isn't about Democrats or the White House.
It's about what's happening inside the House itself.
Okay.
Let's go.
While most Americans are hanging lights, wrapping presents, and pretending they like fruitcake, Marjorie Taylor Greene has reportedly chosen a different Christmas tradition, attempting to remove the Speaker of the House. Yes, according to sources cited by MS Now, Greene is allegedly spending her final weeks in Congress shopping around a very special holiday surprise for Mike Johnson, a motion to vacate his leadership and kick him out of the Speaker's chair. Because when you're about to leave Congress, why not try to burn down the furniture on your way out? Sources familiar with the conversations claim Greene has been quietly approaching fellow Republicans, hoping to round up the magic number, 9 members, needed to trigger yet another speaker crisis. The message, according to one source, is simple and vaguely threatening. If we don't move fast on codifying Trump's agenda, anything can happen. And by anything, they apparently mean chaos. Again. This is where the irony gets delicious. You may recall that Kevin McCarthy, in his desperation to become Speaker, agreed to change House rules so that a single member could file a motion to vacate the chair. That rule was supposed to empower hardliners. Instead, it empowered history. And McCarthy himself was unceremoniously shown the door. Now, in what feels less like governing and more like political slapstick, that same rule is being floated as a weapon against Mike Johnson by none other than Marjorie Taylor Greene. And yes, Greene has reasons. She has openly accused McCarthy of sidelining GOP women and not taking them seriously. A fascinating grievance coming from an evangelical, hard-right figure whose political career has largely revolved around stripping women of bodily autonomy. The irony is not subtle, it's screaming. Greene, of course, is not alone. According to anonymous GOP sources, multiple Republicans are openly frustrated with Johnson, and conversations about a motion to vacate are reportedly already happening behind closed doors. All of this is unfolding at a moment when the Republican Party is already reeling. Battered by election losses, sinking poll numbers tied to Trump's economic record, and state parties increasingly willing to defy their own national leadership. And so naturally the party's response to instability is another internal knife fight, because nothing says we're ready to govern quite like trying to depose your own speaker during the holidays. At this point, it's fair to ask, is this a political party or warcher or like your a reality show that forgot to stop filming? Because what's unfolding here isn't leadership, it's season 2 of the Speaker Hunger Games. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lawmaker already halfway out the door, is allegedly flirting with the idea of detonating the House Republican leadership one last time. Not over legislation, not over policy substance, but over loyalty, leverage, and the eternal MAGA question, are you Trump enough? Mike Johnson, the current speaker, was supposed to be the solution. Instead, he's become the next target. The Mike Johnson problem. Too calm, too quiet, too normal. To understand why Johnson is suddenly in the crosshairs, you have to understand what he represents. Mike Johnson is not loud. He does not rage post. He does not perform outrage on cable news every night. In today's GOP, that's not a strength. That's a liability. Johnson rose to the Speaker's chair after Republicans burned through Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, and nearly every other viable option in what can only be described as a months-long audition for dysfunction. Johnson was chosen not because he inspired the conference, but they knew also than what you he offended the fewest people at the time. And in a party driven by grievance, that never lasts. Greene's leverage. I'm leaving. What are you going to do about it? What makes this moment especially volatile is Greene's unique position. She's not running again. She's not worried about fundraising. She's not afraid of committee assignments. In Washington terms, that makes her dangerous. A lawmaker with nothing to lose can say the quiet part out loud. Or like same grouse, or in this case, allegedly start counting votes for a leadership coup without worrying about the fallout. If the reports are accurate, Greene isn't making a grand public announcement. She's doing something far more effective, having private conversations. And that's where the real story lives, because every time one of those conversations happens, it sends a message to leadership. Your job is negotiable. The ghost of Kevin McCarthy still haunts the building. Let's not pretend Republicans don't have PTSD from the last time this happened. Kevin McCarthy didn't lose the speakership because Democrats attacked him. He lost it because his own party set the rules on fire and then walked away from the match. The motion to vacate was supposed to be leverage. It became a guillotine. Now, that same mechanism is hovering over Mike Johnson's head like a warning sign written in all caps. And the cruelest part, Johnson didn't even agree to the rule change. He just inherited the consequences. Greene versus McCarthy, a grudge that refuses to die. Publicly, Greene has framed her grievances in the language of fairness. She says McCarthy sidelined GOP women. She says leadership didn't listen. She says she was ignored. Privately and politically, this looks a lot like unfinished business, because the irony here is impossible to ignore. Marjorie Taylor Greene built her national profile not by advancing women's rights, but as but by opposing them, aggressively, relentlessly, with applause from the same movement that now claims to feel unheard. And yet, she now positions herself as a victim of disrespect within the party. In politics, irony is not a bug. It's the operating system, not just Greene. The quiet mutiny beneath the surface. The most important detail in all of this isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's the fact that she isn't alone. Anonymous GOP sources and there are a lot of them lately, in their eyes, admit that multiple Republicans are frustrated with Johnson's leadership. Not because he's failed legislatively, but because he hasn't delivered spectacle. Some want faster action on Trump's agenda. Some want harsher confrontation. Some simply want chaos back, because chaos is where they thrive. That's the reality Republicans now face. A faction of the conference views governance as optional, but views disruption as mandatory. Timing is everything, and this timing is awful. If Republicans were riding high in the polls, this might feel manageable. They are not. Instead, they're dealing with electoral losses, slumping approval numbers, economic dissatisfaction tied to Trump-era promises, state parties breaking rank, donors quietly nervous, voters exhausted, and now possibly another internal leadership crisis. If there is a worse possible moment for a civil war, no one has found it yet. Trump's shadow looms over everything. Again, let's be clear, none of this happens without Donald Trump hovering in the background. Even when he's not issuing direct orders, Trump remains the gravitational force pulling the party apart. Greene's alleged message, codify Trump's agenda or else, is not subtle. It's a reminder that in today's GOP, policy isn't debated on merit. It's measured by loyalty. Mike Johnson's challenge isn't passing legislation. It's surviving expectations that change daily, depending on Trump's mood. And history suggests that's not a survivable strategy. The Christmas irony nobody can ignore. There is something uniquely poetic about this happening during the holidays. While voters hope for stability, goodwill, and maybe a functional government for once, Washington delivers another knife fight. And instead of wrapping paper, it's wrapped in anonymous sourcing and procedural rules most Americans never wanted to learn about in the first place. If this is a Christmas gift, it's the kind that explodes when you open it. Greene's legacy, disruption over destination, whether Greene actually files a motion or not, may ultimately be irrelevant. The damage is already done. She has reminded the conference that leadership is fragile. She's reminded the speaker that his position exists at the mercy of the loudest voices. She's reminded voters why Congress pulls somewhere between root canal and airline food. This is the legacy of a political era where outrage replaced outcomes, and Marjorie Taylor Greene has been one of its most effective messengers. The bigger picture, a party trapped by its own rules. Republicans didn't arrive here by accident. They spent years rewarding disruption. They changed rules to empower rebels. They sidelined compromise. They celebrated spectacle. And now they're shocked that the spectacle won't stop. Mike Johnson didn't create this problem. Kevin McCarthy tried to manage it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is simply exploiting it. Final thought, when the exit is louder than the entrance. Marjorie Taylor Greene entered Congress as an outsider determined to shake things up. She appears ready to leave the same way. If the reports are true, her final act won't be legislation, compromise, or reform, but one last reminder that the House Republican Conference is still at war with itself. And whether or not Mike Johnson survives, the message is clear. In this version of American politics, no one really wins, but the chaos always finds a way to stick around. Greene of Cornide shouts in some way, vai nis. Greene, of course, is not alone. According to anonymous GOP sources, multiple Republicans are openly frustrated with Johnson, and conversations about a motion to vacate are reportedly already happening behind closed doors. All of this is unfolding at a moment when the Republican Party is already reeling. Battered by election losses, sinking poll numbers tied to Trump's economic record, and state parties increasingly willing to defy their own national leadership. And so naturally, the party's response to instability is another internal knife fight, because nothing says we're ready to govern, quite like trying to depose your own speaker during the holidays.